A silent race is unfolding at the top of the world. As Arctic ice vanishes, vast riches, 22% of global oil and gas, are exposed, and a new sea route promises a revolution in trade. But these forbidden trillions could unleash a war unlike any seen before. Who will control the North, and what price will the world pay for this frozen gamble? Beneath the Arctic ice lies a fortune that has captured the attention of governments and corporations alike. According to the US Geological Survey, the region may contain as much as 22% of the world's undiscovered oil and gas. These are not just abstract numbers. They represent hundreds of billions of barrels of oil and trillions of cubic meters of natural gas, locked away for millennia, now edging closer to reach as the ice recedes. Every major energy company has run the numbers. The payoff is staggering, but so are the costs. Arctic extraction requires specialized rigs, ice-hardened infrastructure, and a tolerance for risk that few industries can match. Seasonal ice melt opens short windows for drilling and shipping, but it also brings unpredictable hazards, icebergs, storms, and temperatures that punish even the toughest machinery. Yet the real game changer is not just what is buried under the ice. It is the new shipping lanes that the melting Arctic is revealing. The Northern Sea Route, running along Russia's northern coast, slices the distance between Europe and Asia by up to 40% compared to the Suez Canal. For global shipping, that means billions saved in fuel, lower insurance costs, and faster delivery times. In 2018, the container ship Venta Maersk completed the first commercial transit along this route, signaling that what was once a theoretical shortcut is now a viable, if challenging, corridor for trade. By 2025, over 100 vessels made the journey in a single season, moving more than 3 million tons of cargo. The majority of these ships were tankers and bulk carriers, each built with reinforced hulls and guided by icebreaker escorts. For now, only the most robust vessels can make the trip, and only during a 4 to 5 month window each year. But as the ice thins and technology improves, the operational season grows longer, and the economic calculus shifts further in favor of Arctic shipping. A maritime economist at the University of Copenhagen explains that every day a ship spends at sea costs operators tens of thousands of dollars. Cutting the voyage from Shanghai to Rotterdam by nearly 2 weeks is not just a logistical win, it is a direct boost to the bottom line. But the risks, ice, limited search and rescue, and unpredictable weather still make insurers nervous. As long as those risks remain, the Northern Sea Route will be a premium lane, not a mass-market highway. Beyond oil and gas, the Arctic also holds rare earth minerals, especially in Greenland, drawing interest from both Chinese and Western firms. But these resources come with their own legal and political complications, including local opposition and international disputes over mining rights. For now, the numbers are clear. The Arctic's resources and new trade routes offer a financial prize on a scale few regions can match. The question is, who will bear the costs and who will claim the rewards? Every new Arctic venture carries a cost that numbers alone cannot capture. The region's extreme cold and shifting ice make even routine operations unpredictable. When disaster strikes, the consequences are magnified by distance and isolation. Oil spill response in the Arctic is a lesson in limits. Unlike temperate seas, where containment booms and cleanup crews can arrive within hours, Arctic conditions often leave responders stranded by weather or blocked by shifting ice. The 2020 Norilsk diesel spill sent over 20,000 tons of fuel into northern rivers, contaminating hundreds of square kilometers. Months passed before the ice retreated enough for a full-scale cleanup, and even then, much of the damage proved irreversible. The threat does not end with industrial accidents. As permafrost thaws, ancient carbon and methane are released into the atmosphere, accelerating climate change far beyond the Arctic. Scientists warn that the region holds twice as much carbon as the world's forests. When permafrost collapses, it creates a feedback loop. Warming begets more warming, and the ice vanishes even faster. This is not a distant threat. In the past decade, methane concentrations over Siberia have surged, and ground once considered solid now buckles under roads, pipelines, and entire towns. For those who live here, these changes are not just statistics. An Inuit elder from Nunavut explains that the land is our memory. When the ice comes late or the animals move away, we lose part of ourselves. Indigenous communities depend on sea ice for hunting, travel, and culture. Yet their voices are often drowned out by the roar of engines and the promise of profit. Even basic safety is not guaranteed. Search and rescue in the high Arctic is measured in days, not hours. The closest helicopter may be 1,000 kilometers away. In 2022, a cargo ship struck ice near the Laptov Sea. It took over 36 hours for help to arrive. Every extra minute in the cold can mean the difference between life and death. The Arctic's riches are real, but so are its risks. The true cost of opening the North may be measured not just in dollars, but in lost ecosystems, fractured communities, and an unstable climate that reaches far beyond the polar circle. Russia has transformed the Arctic into a fortified frontier. Since 2014, over 50 military bases have been reopened or built across the region, stretching from the Kola Peninsula to the far-flung islands of Franz Josef Land and Severnaya Zemlya. These installations are not relics of the past. They bristle with new radar domes, S-400 air defense systems, and runways capable of hosting bombers and interceptors. At Nagurskoye on Alexandra Land, the so-called Northern Shamrock Base stands as the northernmost military outpost in the world, operating year-round in temperatures that can plunge below -40. Russian Arctic brigades trained for polar warfare rotate through Alakurti near Norway's border, while the Northern Fleet's submarines and ice-hardened warships patrol the Northern Sea route, projecting power over both resource fields and shipping lanes. China, though thousands of kilometers from the polar circle, calls itself a near-Arctic state. Since 2018, Beijing has poured billions into a fleet of polar icebreakers and research vessels, weaving the Arctic into its Polar Silk Road strategy. Chinese ships, sometimes flagged for science, sometimes for commerce, have become a regular sight in Arctic waters. Proposals for dual-use research stations in Greenland and new investments in Russian ports hint at ambitions that stretch beyond trade. China's presence is carefully calibrated, not overtly military, but unmistakably strategic, seeking a seat at every Arctic negotiating table. NATO has answered with force. In March 2022, Cold Response mobilized 40,000 troops from 27 nations across Norway's frozen north, the largest Arctic exercise since the Cold War. USF-35 aircraft now rotate through Alaska and Norway, while British and French warships train alongside Scandinavian allies in sub-zero drills. The alliance is racing to close the icebreaker gap as Russian and Chinese fleets expand. A security scholar at the Arctic Institute puts it bluntly: the Arctic is no longer a backwater. It is where great powers test their resolve. Whoever controls the ice controls the future. International law in the Arctic is a patchwork, riddled with gaps that powerful states are eager to exploit. The United States, despite its massive Arctic coastline in Alaska, has never ratified the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. This leaves Washington without a formal seat at the table when it comes to resolving continental shelf claims or challenging rival boundaries. Chinese officials have called out this absence, arguing that American objections to foreign activity near Alaska ring hollow without legal standing under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. For the United States, this is not just a diplomatic embarrassment, it is a strategic handicap in a region where legal definitions decide who gets access to the seabed's untapped wealth. The Arctic Council, often described as the region's main forum for cooperation, lacks any real enforcement power. It can issue recommendations, host summits, and facilitate dialogue, but it cannot stop a determined nation from drilling, mining, or even militarizing disputed territory. This governance vacuum invites brinkmanship. Russia, Canada, and Denmark have all filed overlapping claims to the Lomonosov Ridge, a submerged mountain range that could unlock billions in resources. None of these claims can be enforced without consensus, and no mechanism compels compromise. Greenland illustrates how fragile these legal lines can be. In 2022, Energy Transition Minerals filed an $11.5 billion lawsuit after Greenland's parliament reinstated a ban on uranium mining, halting the giant Kvanefjeld rare earth project. The dispute pits local environmental concerns against global demand for minerals vital to renewable energy and defense technology. Chinese firms, once poised to dominate Greenland's rare earth sector, have been sidelined by Western pressure and shifting Danish policy. Meanwhile, United States officials have floated security guarantees and economic incentives to keep Greenland aligned with NATO, wary of any foothold by Beijing or Moscow. In the Arctic, law and politics are inseparable. As the ice recedes, these unresolved legal contests become flashpoints, where a lawsuit, a council deadlock, or a blocked mining lease can have the same strategic impact as a fleet of warships. The rules are incomplete, and for now, the only certainty is the risk that comes with them. As Arctic ice recedes, militarization intensifies, and global stakes rise. Today's choices, by governments, corporations, and citizens, will decide whether this frontier becomes a battlefield or a blueprint for cooperation. The world is watching, but the Arctic won't wait. What future do you see for the top of the world?